start to end, a concept in commercial property investing, like when you start, what's your mindset versus towards the end, or even after 5 years, 10 years, what's your mindset. So if you want to know, it's a different perspective I want to put together, then watch till the end. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Soumen Mondal, and just to give you a quick stats that the last 6 months I bought about $30 million worth of commercial property, and I became financial independent through commercial property investing by the year 2023. So let's talk about start to end. When you have never invested into commercial property, let's say, then your number one fear is that, oh, where is the cash flow? Because if you have invested quite a bit of residential properties and now you want to move into commercial, then you do all these calculations minutely, right? And let's do that calculation. Let's say you are taking 100% loan and the interest rate is right now 6% and you are getting a 7% deal, which is 7% net return. So first year you are going to get that $10,000 cash flow. Now, of course, the year that you buy that property, it has stamp duty, the other cost and everything, it does not give as much cash flow as it should, because all the cost is also there, right? Now, your mindset is that, oh, this is not giving enough cash flow, I don't want to buy this. Now, let me tell you something. Not buying is not an option, because if you don't get into commercial property, then of course, by all means, you will never get the cash flow, because there is no other investment which can give you better cash flow than commercial property investing. Okay, that's number one. So you have to invest. All right, now let's look into it. When you start, your mindset and you are calculating this based on that day's number. What it is you fail to understand, or perhaps you don't do, is that exaggerate to 10 years down the line, or 20 years down the line, or 30 years down the line, because that's how you get the maximum benefit, and you can train your mind that, okay, it makes sense for me to buy. Now, let me give you an example. If you buy $1 million property and it is giving you $70,000 net return the day one, first year, that means the next year there is a strong chance that it is going to go up 3 to 4%. It is already written in the lease, and assuming that you're buying on the market rent, the government is going to put that CPI increase 3 to 4% on an average, and then you are going to get 3 to 4% more income, which means the next year that 70,000 will become like a 72 or 73,000. That means you will get more in the next year, assuming all other parameters remains the same, which is like your mortgage payments remains the same, all other expenses remains the same. Assuming that it's a net lease, means all these expenses also will be paid by the tenant. Okay, now if you exaggerate like this, every year 3 to 4% rent is going to go up. That means on the 10th year or 15th year or 12th year, what at some point of time, the rent, that 70,000 will become 140,000. So then when you do that calculations, you need to put together an average, what I also call like a 1.5 times or 2 times calculations. Is like, yes, if I'm getting the rent now and if I can survive today, how does it grow and what could happen in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years time. The same thing you can calculate even residential property also. The difference between residential and commercial is that residential, even though rent goes up, all these expenses are also going up. So the net return that always remains the same in residential property, whereas in commercial the net return is always going up. This is the fundamental difference. Like, your cash flow is going to be more and more in commercial versus residential. That's number one. Now I want you to look into another way. Assume that you can get $10 million worth of commercial property over a period of next 3, 4, 5 years time. And if somebody says that you cannot, that's wrong. You can. No matter what your circumstances is, you can absolutely make money, get into commercial property and buy 8, 10, $20 million worth of commercial properties. Absolutely possible. Now let's get into this. Let's say you have acquired over a period of time, very simple, $10 million worth of commercial property. Now $10 million commercial property, if it grows only 3% or 4%, which is the standard CPI rent increase, as the rent goes up, so does the property value. So 3 to 4% growth means you are getting this 4% of that growth of that $10 million as well. Now $10 million, 4% growth is 400,000. Simple, right? $10 million is your property portfolio, 4% is that 400,000. That 400,000 is the growth, comes automatically. That is one of the fundamental part you need to understand, that in commercial property you can hold bigger, and even with 4%, $400,000 growth is a lot year on year basis. Remember, we are talking about, so that means if you hold it for next 10 years, that is like $4 to $5 million, just the growth. So sometimes we do not think like that, or we do not put together in our thought process like this, that if you can acquire a $10 million worth of commercial property and that goes to 15 million, that whole 5 million is yours. You don't have to pay anybody, and more importantly, you can hold this for long term. That 15 million can become 20 million as well, because you don't have to sell. It's giving you cash flow and you can hold it. So if you just put these two parameters, one is that you're getting income as long as it is giving consistent income, and second is as long as you're getting 3 to 4% growth, is two strong reasons why you will get into more and more into commercial properties. That is one of the fundamentals I want you to think and ponder before you take decision. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it makes sense. Put in the comments, what do you think? Does it resonate with your ideas, or is it like, no, it is too much, I don't want to invest into commercial? Of course, the decision is yours. Remember, the people who would going to take the decision and going to move forward, of course, will make more money. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.